So we've covered everything except deleting our posts. How do we do that? Well, looking at our routes, the route to delete a given post is API posts and then the post ID. And if this post ID looks familiar, well, it's pretty reminiscent of our user ID route param. So we've created a router.param for our post ID, and it references a getPostById function. It's going to get a given post, and it's going to put some data on our request to pass to our delete method, or delete function, called delete post. So it'll get the post and it'll determine if we're authorized to delete it. So in our post controller, we'll start with getPostById. This will be async. We'll have 4 arguments: our request, response, next, and the ID that we get with router.param. So our post ID param will be put on ID. So all we need to do to get a post by its ID is await post find one, and ID will pass our ID. Then we'll take the request, and on it we'll assign a property called post. We'll give it the post data that we're getting from our find one call. Now we also want to check to see whether the ID for the post that we have, whether its posted by value, its user ID in posted by, is the same as the current user's ID. And this is very similar to how we did it for our delete user, as well as, if we can find it, our get user by ID. So once again, we'll use mongoose.types.object_id. We'll take request.post.postedby.id or underscore ID, and we'll assign it to a variable called poster ID. Then we'll add a conditional to see, first of all, if we have some data, user data, put on request.user. If we do, we can compare poster ID with the request user ID using equals and pass in request user ID. We'll add a property to request called isPoster, and we'll set it to true if these two ID values are equal, and we'll return from the function with next. Otherwise, we'll pass over this conditional if they're not equal and move on to delete post. So for delete post, we want to find a given post and delete it. So we'll await post.findOne and delete. We'll find a post by its ID from request.post.id. And we'll say this is our deleted post that we get back. But instead of writing it like this and then returning our deleted post, we need to add a conditional up here where we say if not request.isPoster, then we want to return an error message saying that we're not authorized to do this. So it's the same as in our delete user function. We're returning a status of 400 and saying you're not authorized to perform this action. So we'll paste that in, and we can destructure ID if we want from request.post up at the top. So we're finding a post and deleting it according to its ID, and I'm just going to return with res.json the deleted post. So we'll save, and we'll try deleting a given post. So I believe I'm signed in with John, and I'll select a post by him. I'll select the post ID. I'll open a new tab. This will be a delete request, and this will be /API/posts, pass the ID of the post that we want to delete, and that's it. We'll hit send. So it looks like that was successful because we're getting the post returned to us. If we try to get our user feed again, we'll only see one post by Joan. And if we try to delete her post, so we're currently signed in with John, but if we try to delete Joan's post, we'll get our error message saying you're not authorized to perform this action.